Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the town. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighborhood-friendly Kiwi touch from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, currently writing her high vibe and loved era.
Settle down onto your favorite settee as we starting out strong as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep diving into the connection of our favorite characters. We cover both book, TV series, and notable social media, and therefore will contain spoilers.
Okay, so before we segue into what we're talking about today, we are still recording on today, April 6th, which is the beginning of Pollen Week, because April 6th of, in the books, it was 1814. Penelope
It was a Wednesday, and he
that...
asked me for a pencil.
Yeah, for real. It was just like that, too. Because then when he kisses her in the drawing room, it was a uneventful, or unspectacular Friday, and why does she always remember stuff like that? Yes. But yeah, it was a day, and he handed me a pencil. It's so he asked me the date. It's Wednesday. It's October 3rd. Totally that vibe. Yeah. So it's Pollen Week, and to start out today on YouTube, we already talked about what Bridgerton posted, but I wanted to talk about the little nugget that Luke Newton dropped on Instagram, which is now all over everywhere, and everyone's analyzing it, of his little blooper in the wedding scene.
Yes.
Where he accidentally says, to be your wedded wife. And then he's like, wait a minute, what did I say? What did I say? And I just saw a thing, Ainsley Broom referred to that being like a scene from Four Weddings and a Funeral. And she had thought that they might play into Four Weddings and a Funeral in this season because there's potentially so many weddings that could happen.
Yes.
And with our theory of them playing in elements of rom-coms, it is quite possible that this little nugget of a quote unquote blooper,
and we did get full weddings in a very short time period. Poor Violet went from her kids being spaced out to within a couple month or 6 month period having Colin, I was going to say Penelope, but she's not technically her kid, Colin, Eloise, Francesca, and Benedict all being married off in bam, 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 bam succession.
Right. Yeah, in the books, it definitely happened like that. So Ainsley is definitely on the right track. And it almost makes me wonder if this blooper was actually a blooper, or if it possibly had written the scene or had improv the scene in a way to pay homage to Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Which wouldn't how they have
me. the brownie scene with the drink.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we may not have 4 weddings. We definitely have, I think, 4 couplings.
Yes.
Because we have Pollen, we have Francesca and John, we have Violet and Lord Anderson, Andy. And we have Emma and Lord Cho are actually connecting as couples for the first time.
Yes.
So I just found that Ainsley, I find that interesting. If you ever listen to the pod after your special guest appearance, that we definitely watch your content and we find it interesting.
I think I'm just going to call him Lord Andy from now on.
Lord Andy.
Andy Pandy. Lord Andy. One of my best mates is called Andy, and he was like, you will never be able to come up with a nickname for me that I don't already have, that someone else hasn't already given me. And at the time, we used to watch a whole bunch of Adventure Time together. And so he got dubbed Lord Princess Pandy Pants, and that is what has been in my phone for the last few years. And he is a 6'4", big Viking looking kind of a male. And I refer to him as Princess. When I talk to him, he's on my phone. And so when his brothers or sister or anything hears me refer to him as Princess, they just cackle. And they know that if they ever refer to him as such, they would get a fist to the face. And I'm the only person in the world who can get away with calling him Princess.
That is awesome. That is a great little story. And I'm sorry, Andy, that this has been publicized now for the world.
He'll forgive me. I'm Mama Bear. It's fine.
Okay, so getting back to the task at hand. Today, Squad of the Tangents. We finish our dive into the first 4 episodes. Well, by the end of me writing this, we decided it probably won't be finished. So we are diving still into the first 4 episodes of Bridgerton season 3, and we are currently on episode 4, Side Stories. So we discussed the impact of Marcus asking Lady D to meddle, Francesca being given the choice what to quench her thirst with, music or lemonade, and the queen sour as she watches her match decrescendo right before her very eyes. We may not get any further than this with all of the symbolism. Are you thirsty, Todd?
Always.
Well, must we make haste?
I do believe we will make haste into today's episode. It's probably gonna be a two-parter.
Well, that's why I originally wrote it like it was going to be our final one. And you're like, my notes are so long.
I forever have notes, okay? Sometimes we get through them fast and sometimes we don't because we tangent or we dive into like side stories that are totally not tangent. Side
right.
story.
And so this is funny. This is funny. And I still have to reach out to Ainsley to ask her permission. But when I edited the YouTube video, that was well over an hour long. It was like an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
When I edited out the whole part of us info dumping on each other, because it's the first time we've met each other, I ended up with a 26-minute video.
I know.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. And I was like, for the first time, I was like, I feel like the odd one out because I'm happily married and like, how dare I? I was like, I'm gonna let the single ladies like pen out their love stories.
Well, I mean, I think when you have like 3 people in a room, quote unquote, talking about stuff, like you guys definitely have read some series that I haven't, and I just was sitting back like enjoying I've said it before, I love watching people who are really passionate about something talking about something they love. So I'm just sitting there like, oh, this is nice. Like, I'll get to talk again, I swear.
If there is one thing I know for sure in this life, Patty, is that you and I are never going to go long without talking.
True.
I mean, some people would call that a read. I would just call that facts.
It's fact.
It's just facts.
It's fact. We need to talk. We are externalizers. That is what an ENFJ is.
And let's be real here. I'm funny. Okay, people want to laugh at me, but sometimes with me, sometimes at me. Okay, it's a bit of a mix.
It's a bit of both on my side as well. And I have to pause and be like, did I just naturally funny, or are they like, I don't know?
Most of the time it's because I don't know how to filter what comes out of my mouth. And so you get really like finger bangs literally was not a preconceived thing that I even thought about. It just comes out of me, okay? The iconic moments.
A preconceived notion.
The iconic moments of Natasha Matsis are pure, like unfiltered brain to mouth. There's no thought process behind it. It just comes out.
And I think we're both very similar that way, where we don't have a filter, because a lot of what makes me funny, like my brand of humor, is just saying something in the most blunt truth of it and people finding it funny because they can't believe somebody said it out loud.
Well, that's like people like, and I could see it with Ainsley a few times where she was like, did she just say that? And I'm like, yes, I did. I'm very sorry. It just comes out, okay? There is no thought process behind what is and isn't okay. You know, I'm Australian. I'm from the land of the C word, where it's just a common occurrence. So we clearly don't filter ourselves also well. As you can see with the internet going absolutely wild this week with our little crocodile Dundee and his snakes. Like Australia is ablaze with a whole bunch of questionable words because we are aghast.
Well, and I think in America we see that way more often, where a child star
we talked about this,
needs to, like, they're struggling to find work, so they have to reinvent their image and remind people that they're now an adult. And a lot of times they do it in a sexual way, which I don't always think worked. Like it was a hard road to hoe for like Miley Cyrus, who did that. Anne Hathaway kind of did that.
I really respect. I don't think Anne Hathaway did it in a very sexual kind of way.
Not like Miley, but
no,
she did. But in Brokeback Mountain, she was topless.
Yes, she was. But I mean, we've even got the likes of Hilary Duff, who I feel like had a really healthy transition. I think the worst that I ever saw her do, quote unquote, was smoking. You know, that was the most scandalous thing that I ever saw her do. And she really was a child star who grew up in the spotlight. Granted, she's not on Miley Cyrus kind of scale, but like
Well, and
She was my childhood. She was my Hannah Montana.
the one I remember most from my childhood was, well,
The Olsen twins?
it was no, it was more into my high school college years by the time it occurred. But on Saved by the Bell, Elizabeth Berkley, when Saved by the Bell ended, and she went on and did movie about the stripper. It was with Demi, but that's like struggling. But yeah, she went on to do that movie, and it was the whole goal.
I don't
was
really
to,
want to type in Demi Moore strippers because it might not come up with
I'll just go to IMDb and put in but yeah, she
striptease.
striptease, thank
I
you.
haven't seen it.
Yeah, it
It
was.
has a 13% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Oh yeah, it was a terrible movie. Like it did not help her career at all, and it was such a big deal that Jesse Spano did this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like
But I
that's
mean,
the one I remember that really went south. And then there
the
was
tangent that we started with.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen kind of also struggled when she first came over to Melrose Place.
Yes.
From doing Saved by the Bell. There was, because she played a little vamp vixen, and you know that was a little rough for her at first, but then people got over it with her. They didn't.
Well, I
with
mean,
Elizabeth
we
Berkley.
had Kirsten Dunst go from being, you know, a little vampire cutesy with little curly whirlies to drunken, disorderly kind of behavior in public. But all of this was basically to say that Robert Irwin coming out in his tidy whities that weren't tight or white, they were very tight, sorry, is basically summed up basically how we feel about Hyacinth and Gregory. More so Gregory for me, because Hyacinth on the marriage
he
mark
just
to
has a
me,
baby face.
he just has a baby face. So what it basically is that when we have watched someone grow up, so Stephen Bindi, no, Bindi
Robert and
and
Bindi.
Robert Irwin have grown up, and especially for me, who obviously being
Yeah.
Australian, they are Australian icons. So we grew up with them in every single people, like every kind of news, weekly news, gossip magazine kind of thing, you know, about their family, always on our TV programs about Australia Zoo. We grew up with them and we watched them, you know, on Steve Irwin's channel growing up from literal babies. And even though I actually don't know how old Robert is, but I know he's probably like 25-ish.
He's in his 20s, that's all I know.
Because I know Bindy's a very similar age to me, and I was like, what do you? Oh, yuck. Oh, no, he's 21. BB.
Which 21 is usually the age that they make these crazy decisions.
Yes. And that's the thing, is like, I'm 12 years older than him. So when these images came out, and like, let me state for the reference, I'm not into a gym bod. Not that he has a gym bod. He has a guy who works outside and is very physically active because he runs a zoo kind of bod. But like, that's not particularly my vibe.
That's not where you're looking either, from what I hear. I've not seen these images. But
yeah, everywhere, okay? Because obviously, because I'm in the demographic, the ads came up on my like Facebook ads, and I was like, oh, that wasn't on my bingo card today to see Robert Irwin's snake. Thank you so much. For reference,
I think the bingo card for 2025 is fucked as it is.
look, can we stop playing bingo, because the cards are getting more wild and no one could have predicted this. It is insane.
Right.
Oh, now all we need is the Penguins marching on Trump for trying to tariff them.
True.
I said it in our chat, and I'll say it again. If Australia can lose a war to emus, America can definitely lose a war to penguins, okay? They are vicious little creatures who will come for you. They are very cunning.
Especially those Pengascar.
I know. I've seen them. They are smart little creatures, and they will slap you silly. And I mean,
knowing Trump, that's who he's thinking about when he's doing the tariff. Like they're
for those who don't understand the reference, Trump tariffed, I think, over 150 countries, which was nearly all of them. And one of the tariffs also included islands, which isn't even inhabited by humans, only penguins. So I would imagine that the penguins aren't too happy about their tariffs because they're not used to paying taxes.
And there was one island that is only inhabited by an American military base. So it's American.
Yeah, it was honestly quite hilarious. But yeah, so what we were basically saying is, because Australians especially have
be careful how you decide to go from child to adult in the public eye.
Yeah, it was quite a shock for us who have grown up seeing Robert as a child, and in my mind he is still a child, and I think that's why they made a really, really, really smart decision, even though I know that they recast Francesca purely out of the fact that Ruby Stokes was unavailable to film for the season. I think they actually made a really smart decision by casting
It
someone who was
worked.
a little bit older and we could disassociate her from being Francesca. And also for the fact that they didn't make it a sexual courtship, it was very much an emotional one. So going from her being so young and kind of out of the eye of ours, like she's not really a huge part of Bridgerton up until now, because obviously this wasn't her season. It was Poland's season, although some people may get confused with that, clearly. But they played it really well with Francesca because she was young. They changed the actress up, but I don't think that they're going to do that. I think Florence Hunt is actually going to be a star, like a huge star. I think they found her early
I
and they
agree.
have skyrocketed
Oh,
this
and don't
career.
get me wrong. I think Will Tilston will be as well. He
Yes.
just has a baby face.
Yes. Like
Um,
obviously they've got a long time. Like I didn't know that Will.
Hyacinth is supposed to be younger than Gregory, but Florence
Yes.
has always looked older than Will.
Yes, more mature. And I think that's also because she dresses not mature, but she dresses very not
Stylishly and
yeah, not young hypersexualized. She dresses very classy. Like it's still youthful enough, but it's playful,
mhm.
it's classy. I really, really, really enjoy her style. I think she's got incredible style for her age,
She's got
actually.
great fashion sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
And her stylist is
I would love to see her like walking
and
walking
and
runways.
basically segueing this into our our current couple because they aged down Penelope and Colin for them to get married, where in the book they were a lot more mature. I think there was a cognitive dissonance for a lot of book fans, and I am a book fan, but I can say this with all self-awareness
Hmm.
because and even for show fans, like really struggling with the different decisions and things that Penelope made, that Colin made. Like, really, honestly, go back and remember how you acted as a
At
17,
18. Yeah.
18, 19-year old. Like, this is the perfect age for them. He's 23 by the end of the season. If we look
Yes.
at previous seasons, like he was 2 and 20 or 1 and 20 in no two
Yes.
and
See,
20 in season two.
yeah.
And then, Penelope started a year early. So it's estimated she's 17 years old
Hmm.
when she was launched because the theory is on Bridgerton they're 18 years old. They're young ladies, they're adults now,
Yes.
right? It's not how it was done back then. It was more like 16, but we'll assume she's 17. So
It
now
was
they're
between
turning
16 and
23
18.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So think about the choices you made and the drama. And I say drama for a reason. The drama you got into with your friends and, the it very much is Lady Whistledown. How they portray Lady Whistledown in the show is very Gossip Girl. That was a group of
Like,
teenagers.
okay,
Like,
I'm going to put it out there in defense of Eloise in this moment because we are judging it from the perspective of us being adults and the fact that the
mhm.
actors are also adults, older than me, actually. I remember being 16 years old.
Wow, not older.
I remember being 16 years old and finding out that my best friend had been secretly dating my brother and I mean it was going on for months and I found out and my other best friend knew about it and it felt like the biggest betrayal of my entire existence. Just
Mhm.
moved to this country. I finally not finally made friends. I made friends with them on the first day, but still like I made friends. I found my place and my brother was now going to take it away from me. Like my brother growing up in Australia, he was always Metzi or Metsis, and I was Metzis's sister in school. He was older
Yeah.
than me. So it was always, oh, you're Jason's little sister. Oh no. And my whole entire existence was tainted of following in his footsteps.
Yeah.
We moved to this country. He's now an adult, so he's not at school. So I get to like make my own kind of stamp on the world. And especially being Bridgertons, there's 8 of them and they really want to have things that are just their own. And that's a really common
Yeah.
thing when you come from a big family. You want something that's
Yes, it
just
is.
yours. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like we all heard me talk about not wanting my niece born on my birthday.
yeah. And so like it seems dramatic how Eloise responds, and it is, but that is so true because I remember hysterically crying and calling my parents and saying, "That's it, I'm moving back to Australia. If they're going to be together, I'm not doing this. I don't want any part of it. I'm going back home. Like, get me out of
Mhm.
here. Get me a kangaroo to
Yeah.
ride my way home. Like, I'm done."
Right. And a lot of the when I went to college, and this was the college years, this was me being older,
Hmm.
but coming from the upbringing that I had, like it's very unusual to come into a safe space when you've lived in a very chaotic one. So when
Hmm.
you don't have the chaos, it feels unsafe. It is
Yeah.
safe, but it feels weird.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times I created chaos because I needed normal.
Yes.
So if we had a special guest right now, they would confirm it. I created chaos. Like there's things that did not need to be dramatized that I dramatized for sure.
But I mean,
Um,
that's the thing of having big emotions of being a teenager where your hormones are literally controlling your every thought and action. It is like for those who have seen Inside Out 2, where
mm,
this movie is
so good.
much more about the fact that her decisions are very much controlled by her anxieties and her emotions and wanting to fit in and wanting to seem cool and hurting people in unintentionally just trying to find her place, and that's very
Mhm.
much what it is like to be a teenager. You're barely in control of your emotions. You love people, but you hurt them.
And I
You
think now we
underappreciate
don't have
them.
the life problems they had in Regency times. My 20s, I view my 20s the same way
Hmm.
because I was having to restructure how I viewed the world because I learned and realized that what I grew up in was not normal.
Hmm.
I mean, everybody has their experience. So, what is normal anyway? But I had to learn and apply things. It was almost like having adolescence all over again
Hmm.
in my 20s. So, and with what I've learned about ADHD, our brains actually don't fully develop until our early 30s. Surprise! Thank you,
When is mine going to
ADHD.
develop?
Right?
Still
Is that why we
waiting.
still have juvenile humor?
I think I'm gonna have this humor to the day I die, to be fair.
True. I mean, I'm 49. I don't think it's going to end.
All
Yeah.
right, let's jump into today's episode because we are probably a good 25 minutes into 24 minutes 30 into tangents at this point. So
Mm-hmm.
we are going to start out today. I have a lot of notes and
Mm-hmm.
we are halfway
I get
through
to talk about the zipper.
this. Did Lord Anderson leave his zipper down?
Nope. Comes right after that line, though.
Okay, so we are going to jump into today's episode. We are still at the ball, and this is probably going to be a two-parter. I know that this has been a very long slog, but these are our last episodes in our first half release, and so we
So
want to
much
make sure
happens
that
at this ball, though, to be fair.
so much happens, and so we want to do it justice. Like I remember in the very like early days where we would kind of like jump and we try to jump to like the main parts that we wanted to talk about, and then we realized actually we can tangent about just about anything. You could give me a rubber duck and I could give you a 1 hour podcast on it. So basically we're leaving no stone unturned, and we cover every single second of this series at this point. And it makes me sad that we like some of those first episodes that we did kind of just jump to the bits that we wanted instead of going through the whole thing, or
Mm-hmm.
we were trying to segment couples scenes together. Like if we were talking about the Mondricks, okay, we're starting
Yeah.
here, jumping back here, and it was jumpy. So I'm really glad that we do go in like
Oh, yeah.
really
Because, like, even Ainsley's recent TikTok about the birds,
yes,
the macaw in the cage and the birds in the
yes,
cage. The birds are in the cage in the first episode. Like,
yeah.
and the only bird not in the cage is that white peacock and
Mhm.
Penelope standing by
Let me
it.
see
And it's
your
like,
peacock, cock, cock, your peacock, cock. Penelope
okay,
singing to Colin at night. Penelope's in her like in her little slip,
full
and she's like
shoulder. Yeah.
let me see your peacock, come on, Colin. And he's like, I'm
Yeah.
brooding, I'm brooding.
If that scene, yeah, if that scene would have been a dear penthouse, Colin rewrites the scene. You know, he wants to relive the scene, but live it out the way he wanted it to be. So he rewrites it like a dear penthouse. Like I did not leave the room. She was a temptress. That's how Colin gets into writing smut in the Regency era.
Yes. Yeah, just living out their best life. Okay, so because we are now in a much more cohesive order and basically just following scene by scene. We are starting out this episode roughly around 34 minutes 12, which is as Lady Danbury is exiting the ball. So we see Lady D trying to leave the ball early with her brother, Lord Andy, trying to
Chasing after
follow,
her. Chasing after her.
follows her out.
There's a lot of gentlemen in this season that are chasing women out of ballrooms. That's all I'm saying. And I know this isn't a romantic one, but still.
I kind of love that we also have, like, the season is the season of love in all forms. We have friendship love,
Yes.
we have platonic love, we have
Sibling.
sexual love. We have every form of love. And I know that, we just had the season of love premiere for season event for season 4, but honestly season 3 is the season of love. We get to see how love transforms Anthony now that he's got a partner by his side, not a sexual part. Like, some people talk about how Sienna might have been a better fit for him. Absolutely not. She did not bring out the best side of him. She did not help him be the best version of himself. She just wanted the version that suited her, that anything that benefited her
And I
is what
think
she wanted, and
that's going to mirror season 4, because that situation was a woman who was happy with being a mistress. She didn't want the responsibility of the ton. Antony, of all people, could have brought her in. He could have married her. He could have gotten her accepted, and he had decided and known this. Sienna didn't want it. She wanted the life she had, and she wanted the life she wanted.
Yes. Which is perfectly fine. But then she
what
also...
would she have to give up?
Yes.
She would have to give up singing and performing.
Yes.
But she made that choice.
She made that choice, and she chose herself, which is perfectly fine. It is absolutely fine to choose yourself, but it is then not fine to punish someone else for your choices, because I felt very much like she was punishing him for her trying to bring him into her world. She didn't know how to
communicate it right.
She wanted him to leave his world for her, give everything up. Giving up his family would be like giving up himself. That was a part of him. And I don't think that he could ever live. Like, I know that he had that moment. And when sometimes you just get this idea and you run with it, but it's not right. And you are running with it because you want to do it before your head actually catches up and tells you this is a terrible idea. And I felt like that was the moment where he goes to her saying, if I kill him, or if I shoot him, or if I live, we can run away and be together. Like, he was absolutely just in adrenaline pumping crazy pants mode, but it wasn't actually anything that was ever going to play out. But yeah, we have the different kinds of love. We have Anthony coming into his own as a person. We've got the love developing between friendships between Violet and Lady D. I mean, obviously we already know that Agatha and Charlotte have a well established friendship. We get to see the relationship between, like, a very platonic, loving relationship between Brimsley and Queen Charlotte. We have friendships between siblings. I love that we even get like little moments where it does start to get better between the Featherington sisters, little bonding moments between the Bridgerton siblings, like the fighting over the macaroons kind of moments. Like, we get every aspect of love in the season, and I love all of it. I love love in every form, and I think that a lot of people hold sexual and emotional love above all others, but I think in order for your life to truly be complete, you need love to come from so many different places.
Yeah.
Like, if one person is your everything, if you lose them, how do you come back from that,
Right. And what I love about this too is that this is the season of repair. Like, this season taught me so much about repair, that when a relationship goes south, it doesn't necessarily have to end.
Yeah.
And like, in my chaotic dramatic self and in my chaotic dramatic history, like, when it got to a certain point, to me, it felt like it had reached a point of no turning back. And I never, and that's when I would run. Like, I would just be like, this person is not making this choice, so I'm going to make it. I'm ending this. I can't live in this turmoil anymore. And instead of being patient, not that I'm for.
I live in the turmoil, and it's not necessarily a good choice.
Yeah, I'm not a patient person. So seeing how Penelope just allowed Colin to be angry, lived through that until they could calm down and talk about it. like just this season healed a lot in me, and taught me a lot that I had not learned about regulating emotions and communicating in relationships that I've taken to heart. And I think that's why this season has so resonated with people. And we see a repair like between Violet and Lady Danbury, between Lady Danbury and her brother, between Eloise and Penelope, between Colin and Penelope. Like there's so much repair that happens season from major setbacks that you just think, how in the world are they going to come back from that?
Yeah.
That it kind of gave me a little bit of hope.
And because at this point, like we have no idea. And I remember season 3, part 1 ending, and you and I musing as to what her brother did to evoke this level of hatred within Lady Danbury, because
we didn't even
yes,
know the level, because she had not even had Lady Sour Pants. I don't even know her name from season 3. She had a different name in season 1 and season 2. Her name has changed over the seasons, but in season 3 she officially gets a name. But by her offering up this woman to be a possible courtship for him, that just tells you how little seriousness she is putting into his endeavor. But like him running out of the ball to catch up to her, like he has learned that his sister is friends with the woman that he is developing an interest in. And he learns his sister is meddling in the ton.
She was originally Lady Hanbury. She is also listed as Judgy Mama. And then
because she didn't have a name in like season 1, so that would be Judgy Mama.
Judgy Mama. Season 2 was Lady Hanbury, and season 3 she's Lady Keswick.
Keswick, yeah.
It's Keswick.
There's a W, but she pronounces it Lady Keswick in the show. Yeah. But yeah, so I think it's important to note that Marcus is running out of that ballroom toward his sister for 2 very different reasons. One, he is interested in Violet and he wants to get a true introduction that can lead to an actual courtship, and his sister's the best choice because they're friends. But 2, he sees a way, he sees something that he can present to his sister that he hopes will be the thing that repairs their relationship. Yeah.
Because at this point, I don't think he even knows. Like, we're sitting there and we're thinking, what could he have possibly done that has caused her to hate him so much, but for him to still be so friendly towards her? And so, I remember being in the chats about this, and people were thinking, was he the one that sold her off? Was her parents dead? And he, kind of like in a Queen Charlotte kind of moment where it was Adolphus who essentially sold Charlotte off to the crown. Because it wasn't even to a man, it was to the crown, essentially. So I don't think anyone could really understand. And when it did finally come out, it just felt a little anticlimactic. Like you've held on to that much hate for that long over a child's actions. Like how can you and I know she's so deep in the PTSD that she's never, was it CPTSD when it's like not one event but like a childhood event?
Yeah, it's CPTSD when it's chronic and it goes on for a period of time.
Yeah, so I think that she is suffering from a lot of CPTSD. So I see it from both sides, but if she just thought for 1 second that this is a 10-year-old boy, this is not an adult male. This isn't even a 14-year-old who's now got certain responsibilities as an Eton man, as as Gregory would put it. This is a child who's still doing the, not Ring Around the Rosie, what's the totem pole for Easter? Maypole, still doing the Maypole event, still running around playing games with their friends. This is a child that she is holding to the standard of an adult. So like when it came to the point where she finally told him why she was mad at him, I was like, are you serious? Like, are you not saying these words out of your mouth out loud and realizing, oh, I'm an idiot. I've hated a man for a child's actions. Like, it was just a frustrating moment, but I do understand that she had so much CPTSD that it's not him that she was hating. It was anything that makes her think of it.
Anything that makes her think of that situation.
Anything that makes her think of that scared little girl.
And I think that was projection. I think that it was safer for her to, because essentially she cut herself off from every part of her life. and she lumped him in. And Lady Danbury is nothing if not practical. And I think that tying an emotion to him, she had to give it a pinpoint, and he was 10. So I don't think I sometimes when we're mad at somebody,
It's not logical.
it's not logical because it comes from an emotion. And this is really a trigger for her. And I think like if this would have been 2024 and they modernized it, they would have had a whole different conversation about how that's a trigger and he's a trigger that takes her back
Yes.
to that moment in
But back
time. And
then, as you've shown me in the thing, she would have been sent off to the asylum for a bit of stimulation
hysteria.
therapy.
Yeah. She has hysteria. She needs to go for some, and I
Well,
forget
I
what they
mean,
called
it
it, but it
wasn't
was
it
manual stimulation,
it
blah blah
was in
blah.
the deleted scenes, but she does do her own stimulation therapy with the stuff.
Right. She's like, I have hysteria. Let's take care of this. But yeah, like, but I love that one. He thrust himself upon her, like he sent her the note. She did not turn him away, but
Mhm.
he was coming finally. I think he was coming with repair in mind, but
Yes.
Violet really said like, okay, we're not going to do this until you do.
Yeah.
But I also think that Danbury's anger over a bunch of stuff he didn't do
Hmm.
played into like her wanting to see him in a negative light, and that's why she's
Yes.
treating him like he's a rake about town and he's going to do ill to some women of the ton, and she does not want it to be her friend.
Well, sort of how I was talking about my brother, like with Eloise's reaction to Colin and Penn, an adult would be like, "Oh my, that's fantastic. I now get you as a sister. This is like we already know we get along. Now we get a whole lifetime together. Like this is the best thing ever." That's the logical part of the brain. And at that age, you're not working with logic. You are working with emotions, 95% emotions, 5% logic. And as we get older, I'd say per year we gain like a couple percentage of logic, but like the emotions are still pretty up there. And I think even at Lady Danbury's somewhat advanced age, I'll put somewhat, I think she's still working in emotions because her logic has ruled so much of her life because she had
Yes.
to survive. But where her brother comes out, like because it brings back all those feelings for her, that is where her childhood, she reverts back to that childhood trauma, which brings out the emotional side in her, and the logic is no longer there. It is 100% emotion, and she is like, "You took everything away from me, and now you want to take my best friend. You can't have her. She's mine." And it's not from it's from a place of just wanting to protect your heart. It's not
Mm-hmm.
an intentional selfish choice that she's making. It's the only way that she knows how to protect herself.
Well, and I want to talk about something that I don't think a lot of people have talked about. I don't even think we have discussed it because we talk about her relationship with Charlotte being a long-standing friendship. But I definitely think that we learn a lot about their friendship in this interaction with her brother because he said, "Why are you leaving so early?" And she said, "The ballet has been danced. The queen is happy with her sparkler. And now I am leaving because I want some time for myself."
So, yes,
She is the friend.
yes,
Okay. The queen is not the friend.
yes.
I mean, and they're friends, but there's in some
It's different.
friendships, you have that person that does all the things, all the emotional labor, does
Yes.
all of the like, I'm
Hi,
always there for this person.
me.
Hi, it's me.
The
I'm the
problem
problem.
is,
It's
yeah.
me. Yeah. And I do have some friends that reciprocate, but a lot of my relationships, they reciprocate when they can, or sometimes not at all. And a lot of times not when I'm desperately crying out for help. You know what I mean? Like
Whereas, like,
I've
I
learned.
like I see messages like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm busy. I can't open chats because then I have got to read all the way back, and then I'll just see like one message pop up, and I'm like, cool. I have not read any of the
Yeah.
chats. You're gonna have to catch me up. I just saw the
Fill
one
me in.
message. Cool.
So, and I think that this explains their relationship so much and what makes Lady Danbury and Violet's friendship towards the end of this season so much more beautiful, because Lady Danbury has been in a friendship for years and years and years where she is the giver.
Hmm.
She is the performer. She is performing for the queen's favor.
Yes.
Because it can go south at any moment and she knows she loses out. She's playing
Yes.
the game just like Augusta told her to do. And we see that at times she gets burnt out. Like the queen has asked for her aid for this whole thing because she's just so afraid of failing again that and I was wanting the scene where the queen was like, "How dare you leave? Do you even know what happened to my lovers? Because you left. Like it's all your fault."
You did
But
this to me.
in that moment, we see that the queen and Lady Danbury's friendship, although close, is
Is
not exactly a
not
true
balanced.
emotional, yeah, it's not a balanced connection. And so I think that that is a huge window into Lady Danbury in this moment, just how exactly exhausted and tired she is, and like the last thing she wants to do is deal with her brother, and
Well, and I
that's why
think
she blows them
she's
off
also
like
in a
she
very
does.
precarious situation at the moment where she knows who Lady Whistledown is. She's trying to help protect her and keep her secret. She's very protective of this new relationship that she is forming with Violet. And I would imagine that it's also bringing up a lot of feelings for her in regards to the love that she felt with Lord Ledger. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
there's times where grief is not linear. There are times, like, I started watching a movie last night when I was up with my son at stupid o'clock called The Life List. And it has been,
I've seen that, or I haven't seen it yet, but I saw it on
so
my
that, yeah,
recommended on
like,
Netflix. Yeah.
tell me why at 3 o'clock this morning I was sobbing my little eyes out, missing my granddad because I watched the first 5 minutes of that stupid movie. It's not a stupid movie, it's a great movie, but like sobbing my little eyes out. Like here I am supposed to be like getting my son to sleep, and like I just while I was cuddling him, he's faced away and I put it on quiet in my headphones and that. But like sobbing because how much I missed my granddad. Like grief is not linear. And even though they weren't together when he passed, she's still grieving a life that she could have had with him or grieving the love that they did have together. Like it doesn't have to be logical, but you can tell with how she reacts when her and Violet do finally get to sit down and kind of be open and honest with it, like how much it is still held close to her in the way that she protects the Bridgertons, I think has a lot to do with that connection with him.
Well, and two, we have never seen Lady Danbury leave a ball where the queen was in presence, right? We've never
Yes.
seen her leave early. What if she's not saying the thing out loud, but she's leaving early because she knows, as everyone in the ton does, thank you, Portia, that Penelope is going to get proposed to, not by the man she wants
Hmm.
Penelope to be proposed to, because when she learns of their proposal in Whistledown, she's excited about it. She's
Yes.
like, I'm surprised, but I had nothing to do with it, but I'm into it, right?
Like
So, what if,
I left the ball early and this all goes down. What even happened?
right, like, I'm surprised we didn't see her running into the house right behind Benedict.
Yeah.
But like, it makes me wonder, especially knowing that she knew that Penelope was Lady Whistledown,
Hmm.
that she's been that observant all these years.
Yes.
She's had to have clocked their flirtations and their like looks and all of that. And we know from the books she clocked it.
And their
So
friendship,
yeah.
deep, deep
So
friendship.
so we know in the book she clocked it. So what if she was leaving because she just could not watch Penelope get engaged to the wrong man?
Yeah, because she's been through that where getting engaged to the wrong man or not even getting to choose the man, but having society or your parents or whoever choose for you lead you down a very, very dark path
Mm-hmm.
of losing yourself. And she's probably afraid for Penelope to lose her identity and to
And
live
her and
and what it's like to live in a loveless marriage.
and her and Violet kind of meddle together. So,
Hmm.
and Violet had her conversation with Colin before the ball. So,
Yes.
what if they were trying to be subtle and, but they, maybe they had that moment right before the breakthrough when you feel like all is lost. Like Violet and Danbury are having their all is lost moment.
Hmm.
Like this, we thought this one would occur naturally, and it hasn't. And they're both feeling a little bit of like, oh,
We
I
focused on the
should
wrong
have gotten
sibling.
involved, but I didn't. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and now,
It's one
now
of
that
my
we've
biggest
analyzed all
grievances.
of,
It's one of my biggest grievances of book to DV series. And I know that they said they couldn't have Lady D be Penelope's mentor like she was in the book because they wanted Colin to be that mentor. But I desperately loved that connection between Lady Danbury and Penelope. And I'm glad that we at least got one scene on the very last episode. One of the very last scenes is Lady Danbury congratulating her. But I think I wish that we got scenes of them being kind of wallflowers together in the early seasons to show that developing connection between them. How Lady Danbury says, you are the one person who loves the Bridgertons more than I.
Hmm.
But they don't show us that connection. And I really wish they did because I love that from the books. And I think that
Yes.
we're going to get a lot more of it in season 4, given that
Oh,
Agatha and
they are part of the Holy Trinity.
mm,
They will be in a room together with the Queen. It is happening. It is done. I am manifesting it because I want to see that scene. I want
um
to see the Queen and
okay,
Danbury
I'm
and
gonna
Lady
manifest.
Whistledown.
I'm gonna manifest this into the world, Patty. Golden Girls, take two. Except it's Queen Charlotte, Violet, Agatha, and Portia, and they are the Golden Girls, and they're
Oh,
remaking the Golden Girls with those 4 women.
oh, oh my gosh, that would be so good.
That would be
Okay, and now
iconic.
like you have to go online and you have to watch a few episodes of the Golden Girls so you get the character
Yeah.
archetypes. And then for YouTube, we have to discuss if we had the Golden Girls, who would be who.
Oh,
So
because
so you got to watch at least 3 to 4 episodes of the Golden Girls
okay.
so that you understand the character archetypes.
All right, this is
And
my this
then
is my assignment.
this is your assignment, your homework,
All
if
right.
you will. I am the teacher and you are the student. Because I know the Golden Girls. I have watched just about every episode.
I have only ever seen like scenes with Betty White and then one of the
Okay.
girls who's the bit of the
Blanche, probably.
floozy. Is it
Blanche, yes.
Blanche? And she's like got stood up and she's like, I'm going out. No, I'm not
Yes.
going out. I'm going out. No, I'm not going out. And then maybe one scene where two of the girls were fighting over one man. And then one of them comes out
Yeah,
wearing
yeah.
basically lingerie, and the guy's like, "Oh,
Yeah, that's probably Blanche.
it was
And
definitely Blanche."
Dorothy is this sarcastic, snarky, like
Portia.
protect like she's got armor on. Yeah, yeah. No, we're
Okay.
doing this as a separate
Okay, okay,
episode.
okay, okay,
Like you
okay.
have to
Maybe
watch the
maybe this is going
show.
to be one of our YouTube episodes is going to be
That's what I'm
us.
saying. It's going to be
Okay,
YouTube. That's such a
okay,
YouTube episode.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay,
getting
so now I want to like
sorry, go on.
he's asking her like I've met this most incredible woman, which is nice that we know he's talking about Violet
Hmm.
and everything. But I don't know how many people caught this, but when he's like, I want you to take me on as a project and whatever. And like, he's like, my heart is in the right place. And
Hmm.
she goes, where? In
Your
your
britches.
breeches.
Yeah.
And then the next scene we see is the dance floor, and the dancers are coming away from each other in a line like a zipper.
Hmm.
It opens like a zipper. The dancers open like a zipper. And right at the end, when the zipper is fully open, is standing Violet Bridgerton. So his heart is in the breeches.
The zipper is opening for
That
Violet.
symbolism is
Her
amazing.
garden is in bloom. It is going to be tended to. Tell,
He's letting his zipper down, letting the zipper open for some Violet Bridgerton.
I think this was the moment where I realized like how much I actually
And that
really,
just tells me how much Jack Murphy listens, so
yes,
that what he said today in that video tells me there's more Patty Cannon in the Pollen story than we've been led to believe.
we stan a Jack Murphy. He is the choreographer of emotions. But what I really like I realized how much I actually really really like Lord Anderson, Lordy Andy, in this moment because you could see that obviously him and Lady D were struggling on some level, and he was trying to extend an olive branch of, I know that we haven't connected for a long time. We don't know what that disconnection is. We don't know the level of it. We don't know why the ire, like, is it just because he's the male and he inherited and she's such a strong independent female and she hates, the outdated notion of everything going to the male. Like that was kind of where I was thinking that maybe she was not jealous, but like hated that she was the competent one and he was given everything. A little bit like
Yeah.
Billy Bridgerton, from the
Yeah.
Rokesby series, so I
But
kind
I
of
don't
thought
think
it,
she held that kind of rancor
no,
for
but
Edmund ever.
before episode 5 came out, that was, I don't
What
think
everybody thought, yeah.
yeah. So, well, no, a lot of people thought that he sold her, not the dad, but I'm like, that, no.
He was younger than her.
I know. I was like, make it make sense, dude. Make it make sense. But, in this moment, we can
The
see that
internet.
yeah, we can see that he is really trying his best to extend an olive branch and to find some kind of common ground to connect them. And he's like, well, if she makes me her sparkler, let me sparkle sparkle for you, little sis. If she
Lord Marky Andy wants to be so sparkler.
Marky Andy, the little sparkler.
He's walking around going, pretty bitch. Make me a sparkler.
Shine bright like a diamond. But yeah, like he very much is trying to extend an olive branch. He's trying to find some way to bond with his sister because he thinks it's just maybe we've been apart for so long. Maybe she's just struggling to find something to connect with me on. Maybe it's the fact that I'm a country gentleman. Like I don't think he even really understands the gravity of why she is so opposed to him. And so he's like, well, I can kill two birds with one stone here. My sister's meddler. She clearly knows Violet
Very
well,
well.
very well. So she can, make introductions for us. She can kind of pave the way for a second act for me. That way she gets to have a really good friend of hers as a sister-in-law, the dream. And so when she responds the way that she does, he's like, oh, I effed up somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Like I made some missteps clearly because like what's going on here? I think
Like
even
she's
he's
angrier than I thought. Yeah.
yes.
Okay, pause. The dogs need to go out. So I'm
We had a brief intermittence there, but we're going to jump back in with Marcus Anderson. Then, like, he kind of states to his sister that, he hears that she's a meddler of society, a statement that gets him the most disapproving and irritated look. And when he continues on that he would like her to use her meddlesome powers, as he keeps meeting the most intriguing woman. And I love that he uses the term intriguing to describe Violet because she is such an outlier in society. And from someone who's a country gentleman, she's probably a little bit more in line with not what he's used to, but I think the ladies of the ton are all very cold and calculating and demure and like, fan play and that kind of thing. Whereas Violet is honesty and rawness and openness and love for her children. And she is just
oh,
an anemone in society.
yeah,
And
an anomaly. And she would have been, when she finally came onto the marriage mart, he would have been married and gone because he was only like 6 years. And we've determined that she is what, 10-ish years younger than Danbury.
yeah.
So, and he was the heir, right? So he would have been seeking somebody out, especially if he had already taken over the title
Hmm.
and their family did not operate the way the Bridgertons do and being so into love.
Yes.
So, and his first marriage was literally a marriage of convenience kind of thing. And I think we're probably going to learn more about that in season 4 and as their relationship unfolds, because what caused him to end up living in the country, that'll play into season 4 because
Yes.
we know that Benedict ends up
am
in the
very
country because he
curious.
marries a former maid.
I am so I've talked about this on a very, very, very previous episode where I think they have made a stuff up and they're going to have to backpedal in order to create this. Lady Danbury was not given title. Her husband was given title. Therefore, her brother, who came from Sierra Leone at a different time, and keep in mind that he is titled in Sierra Leone. He is a prince of sorts in Sierra Leone, where
which he would have been given. He would have been given a
honorary title
in England. Yes.
Yes, but that is separate from Lady Danbury's. And so we do not know whose title supersedes whose. We don't even know what title that Lady Danbury was ever given. We did discuss this, I think, on the previous episode. I would imagine that the Danburys would have been given probably the highest out of all of the not initiated, what do they call it? The experiment. I believe that the Danburys would have been given the greatest title out of everyone who was initiated in through the Great Experiment because they were kind of the ones who were the leaders in it. They were the ones who were championing to go on the hunt, to be allowed into whites, which is just a very ironic name given the Great Experiment.
But that was already after they were titled and nobody knew who anybody was before that.
Yes, but they did talk about like Agatha being one of her immediate consorts.
Yes, I think she was, because she was roughly the same age as the queen.
Yes.
That's where I think this honorary like this higher title would have come from, because they would have wanted her to be a confidant, but a
Yes.
spy at the same
Yes, which
time.
is why I think they would have given her a higher title. And because
Yes.
Agatha was playing that whole game with her. So, I think personally, I don't think that it would have ever been on the level of Duke, but I think maybe Marquess or Earl. I don't think that they are a Baron or even a because
Well, and here's my question, because even if England takes over the country, the royalty of the country are still allowed to be royalty in the country. So if
yes,
he was royalty there because Danbury was from a royal family, they have
yes.
established that in Queen Charlotte and whatnot,
Hmm.
that and he was the heir, he was going to take over all that stuff. He would have been royalty in Sierra Leone. So what is he doing in the
That's
countryside of
that.
England?
Yes. What happened to his estate?
So
What
he
happened to his title? Was there some kind of
Yes.
like I need to search if there was any sort of wars in that time period where he would have lost his kingdom there? Did he lose part of his, did they take his land in Sierra Leone, but then in exchange they gave him land in the countryside of England? Like what was the circumstances behind him leaving behind that
Well, I
sort
almost wonder
of
if there's something along the lines of like he came to England to try and repair, or like as he aged and he realized what happened to his sister, like, try and reach out, and something occurred that within the country of Sierra Leone that didn't allow him to go back. So he was stuck in England. So he just,
because Sierra Leone,
married, and
correct me if I'm wrong, but a
because he
lot of
needed a marriage of convenience. I think the way he describes his first marriage, that it was not a love match, which means it was a marriage of business. And I think he probably gained the country estate from the union with his first wife's family, because he might have had nothing. And Danbury was like, nope, not having it. Right. So I almost wonder if it's like that. And Violet is a country girl. Like the Bridgertons hung out mostly at Aubrey Hall before Violet married Edmund. They didn't spend that much time at Bridgerton House, really.
so just a quick Google search shows that Sierra Leone is one of the poorest countries in Africa, and at current point is facing a lot of political instability, which is leading to extreme hunger and ongoing violence, which is putting children and their families at risk.
And if you think about the time period and what was going on in Africa at the time, like
Yeah.
with the slave trade, and a lot of communities, a lot of villages and families were thinking, they were being
Oh,
advertised like
okay. Sierra Leone had
they
a
were
civil
being
war,
told that
but not until 1895.
but they were being told at that time that the children, the young people that they were wanting to take with, that they
Oh,
were sending these
oh,
kids off for a better life, and they were selling off their kids. They were getting paid for their children, but they were being told like they're going to go off to a better life. Only they
and
weren't. They were selling their own into the slave trade.
the Atlantic slave trade had a significant impact on Sierra Leone, as this trade flourished in the 17th and 18th centuries and later as a center of anti-slavery efforts when the trade was abolished in 1807. British abolitionists had organized a colony for black loyalties at Freetown, and this became the capital of British West Africa. A naval squadron was based there to intercept slave ships, and the colony quickly grew as liberated Africa was released, joined by the Afro-Caribbean and African soldiers who had fought for Britain in the American Revolutionary War. The descendants of black settlers were collectively referred to as the Creoles or Creoles. During the colonial era, the British and Creoles increased their control over the surrounding area, securing peace so that commerce would not be interrupted, suppressing slave trading and inter-chiefdom war. In 1985, Britain drew borders for Sierra Leone, which they declared to be their protectorate, leading to an armed resistance at the Hut Tax War of 1898. Therefore, there was dissent and reforms as the Creoles sought political rights, trade unions formed against colonial employers, and peasants sought greater justice from their chiefs. So I think he would
Oh,
have moved
1807.
he would have moved over right as or just
That was
before
coming to a head because if slavery was abolished in 1807,
1807.
it would have been crazy bad. Like things would have been
Really bad.
crazy bad for
Yeah.
about 20ish years before that. So,
Yes, which is when he moved over. So maybe he got out because of that. I
yeah.
mean, this is
I
all
mean,
just
it's a nice
complete.
theory,
Yeah, this is all
complete
just
conjecture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
But we're going to learn
they
more
were
about
in
his
civil
story, I'm
war.
sure.
They were
Yeah,
in
there
civil
was
war. So
well, I think the Civil War was, you said, was 1895. That's 100 years later.
through the 1800s though.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, but that every time something gets abolished or some major thing changes somewhere,
It's
there is
always
about 20 years
yes,
of turmoil up until that
if not
point.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there definitely was a lot of turmoil in that time period, and that may have been like he's like, "Hey, my sister's there. I'm going to get out of Dodge and I'll go to England," and probably gave up a lot of his wealth and things to get over there.
why is all the major civil wars around the world around people not wanting to give up like slavery? Like
Don't ask me.
sad state of affairs.
Yes, it
To
is.
be fair, we're not really taught about civil wars in other countries growing up. We're just taught about fighting emus in Australia and how we lose
Well, we
them.
weren't, I mean, in America, we weren't even taught the truth.
I know.
So, I mean, it
Yeah.
was very, very whitewashed history that we
Same
were
as
taught.
Australia and New Zealand, and that is why, for us Kiwis now, anyone who goes into the teaching profession, we have to. So it's a 3 to 4 year degree to become a teacher in New Zealand, and for those 3 years, you need to do te reo and tikanga Māori, which is the language and cultural understanding of Māori. And we learn all about the history and kind of what was done to the people and why it's so important for us to integrate te reo and tikanga Māori into the classroom to help preserve the cultural background of New Zealand.
Hmm.
So, but like that wasn't something that was taught to me growing up in Australia. The most exposure we have to really Aboriginal culture is doing dot painting. The
Hmm.
dot art growing up. It's going to a reserve in year 4 and like year 7 and learning how they would turn trees into different spears and like it's very, very minimal, very basic. And I believe it might be a little bit different now, but growing up in the 1900s, thanks Gen Z. Growing up in the 1900s, it was very different.
Yes, it was
It's
different.
very triggering when Gen Z say that. Let's move along let's gallop back to the point of Lady Danbury stating that she does not know what he has heard, but she wants him to leave her out of his raking about town and that she will take no part in it. And he states how his activities may appear rakish, which begs me to wonder what activities has this brother been participating in that she knows about? Because she keeps tabs on everything. I don't think there is much that happens in the town, in the ton, that she doesn't know about. Like, I know Lady Whistledown sees what happens at balls because I think that obviously she's so invisible that she can get in up and close to the action without people realizing that she is there. But in and about the ton, I think that Lady Danbury has spies everywhere. All of her staff that she has just positioned throughout town and that see the goings on of who's visiting the brothels, of who's going to see who, of what's going on. I think her staff are collectors of information as well. I think she could have
Hmm.
run her own Lady Whistledown quite successfully.
Yeah.
So when he kind of admits that he can understand how she may think that, I do very much think that they might be alluding to the fact that he has also been visiting the brothels, but back then that wasn't a frowned upon
It's not a
thing.
bad thing.
No.
Yeah, it was
Like even in
normal,
Japan,
actually.
it's actually really, really, really commonplace to visit happy ending massage parlors. And it is not considered cheating because you are paying for a service that you are receiving. Cheating is only emotion. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Reasons why it is nice to visit
And
Japan
I
and
think
not stay.
I think Regency England was very much kind of the same way
Yeah.
because most of their marriages were not emotional. So
As long as you weren't having children to these people, doesn't matter.
Well, no, men could.
Yes.
It
Sorry,
was
women.
common
Yeah.
knowledge. Like men could have a bastard child with another person. That child just could not lay claim to the
Yes.
estate at all.
Yes.
Women were ruined
Yes.
if they became pregnant from a medallion, and they had to find
You
a way
mean
to
like
make
a
it
very
believable.
questionably, you mean a very questionably colored little ginger baby in season one?
Right, right. Like that would have been more people would have been talking about that than Penelope. And but we know Penelope says stuff like that she overhears. So truthfully, she got the quip
She
and
would have
she got
heard
the
it
compliment
elsewhere.
from Colin, but she heard it elsewhere. And so a lot of women, if they did have a dalliance, they would try and find somebody that had a passing resemblance to their husband.
Yeah. So, yeah, like Marcus does try to persuade his sister that his intentions are honorable, but she insists that he only wants to get off and tend to her garden only.
So I wonder if that plays into his first marriage and how it wasn't a marriage of love. And she's calling him like a rake. Wouldn't she have been there?
Mm.
What if it was? What if he was a Fife situation and he got caught in a closet and he had to marry her?
I mean, he may very well have been.
It doesn't even need to be caught in a closet. It could have just been some other
I
being
think
caught alone in a room.
it could have been more of the fact that he was known to frequent brothels before he fell in love with his wife after they were married. You
Well,
know, like
he didn't ever fall in love with her. He just said like he
a
came to care
fondness.
for her.
Yes.
Yeah, and they had a good marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I
And I
can
wonder if that's why Violet is intriguing because she's not falling all over him. Like he might have been entrapped in the beginning with his first wife, and now here's a woman that he is showing interest for who doesn't even seem to realize it, and he's just like, I like her.
yeah.
She's different.
Yeah, yeah. And she is different. And I can very much understand where his cuddly little feelings have come from because if I were a male in that time period, like Violet would 100% be the one. But
Mm-hmm.
I love that she's like, you can take Lady Keswick, like take your bitch and be done with it. Like you can have this one. I will offer you this.
Right. And
And
it's
you
and
can
Lady Keswick is probably maybe more similar. Well, no, he ended up like really finding an affection for his first wife. I mean, that's Lady Danburn. That's
Well, it also tells us everything that we need to know about how she feels towards Lady Keswick as well. I think there are certain people of the ton that
yes,
Lady Danbury
they are not
will,
friends.
no, Lady Danbury will acquaint herself with, but always keep it an arm's length. And that is Lady Keswick. I will be seen with you. I will be cordial, drink some cordial.
Yeah. Some people say cordial, but it's
Yeah.
cordial. Yeah.
Yeah. Cordial with you, but we are not friends. I will not confide in you. I do not want you to confide in me. It is not that deep, but you can be with my brother. Like,
Right. Oh,
yeah.
that's
Okay. Speaking of other love interests that have been trying to culminate, shall we talk about the lemonade?
it's time. It's
It's
time to talk
time.
about whether or not Francesca is thirsty.
Lord Samadani is offering her a tall glass of lemonade. Lord John is offering her the chocolate milk. Let's be real. The chocolate milk is what we want.
Lord John giving Francesca, who we have said is like
Unsweetened lemonade. Let me put it out there. It's going to be
no,
unsweetened.
yeah, she is autistic. We have said she's autistic
Yes.
coded, and her special interest is music. So Lord John pretty much gives her the key, like he's giving her the key to her heart right now because like he's like, I have the key to your heart. I know. I mean,
I've paid attention.
yeah, I've paid attention. It's like when Rachel wears the gold bikini for Ross, okay? Like it's that kind of like, I see you, I get you. And Lord Samadani didn't stand a chance.
Hmm.
Not after that.
It
And
was
like,
it was the Leonard Nimoy moment.
oh, very much so. Like, yeah, Sheldon and Penny. Like you gave me Leonard Nimoy's DNA. Like seriously, Lord John gave her the thing that speaks to her heart.
Hmm.
Lemonade and dancing and future talk was not going to cut it with her. And
Yeah.
she just I think she awkwardly handled the situation. It was kind of scandalous. A, it happened on the dance floor. B,
Hmm.
she knew she had to immediately exit the ball. Like that is etiquette. She
Hmm.
could not turn technically could not turn down the lemonade if she stayed.
Yes.
And if he asked her for a second dance, it would tell everyone that he was interested. She had to bolt. She had to get out of
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. But like it This episode is so incredibly long. And I mean that it has been literally podcast episodes since we have started where Francesca and Lord Samadani are on the dance floor. It was 2 episodes ago that they
And
hit the dance floor.
you might hear some sound in the background because I actually am going to look at the lengths of the episodes because 1 or 2 episodes are longer than the other ones. So I'm going
Okay.
to see because it feels like this episode is so much longer than the other ones, and because so much more happens. But I mean, most of them are roughly an hour. They're
Yeah.
not
Like
okay.
this scene I literally wrote as the scene cuts back to what feels like a million years ago, and is back on Fran and Lord Samadani, who are only now just concluding their dance. Because in between that, we had Lord Anderson and Violet, we had Lord Anderson and Lady D. Like we had all these
Yeah.
really, really big emotional moments just in the time period that they dance. I'm like, what is this? Is this like a dance marathon? Is this the episode of Gilmore Girls where Rory and her mum dance for an entire 24 hours? How long is this dance that all of these interactions have gone on in the singular time that one dance has taken place? Bridgerton,
Well,
you got some
and
serious time
technically,
turners, serious time
they
turners, because
do.
like the,
They
the
do.
timelines are just off.
And this is something they never mentioned, but normally one dance with a partner is considered 2 sets. So it would be 2 different songs, but
Yeah,
that's only one dance.
yeah,
So, but they never talk about that. So they just play into the timing however they want. And really, episode 4 is the same length as episode 3, Forces of Nature. They're both 55 minutes long. And How Bright the Moon is 52. So it's 3 minutes shorter. But Old
but
Friends
this
is shorter by 3 minutes than Out of the Shadows. Out of the Shadows is 58 minutes, but there's just so much that happens
the
in Old
ball
Friends that it just feels like so much time goes by.
the ball is what, 40 of those minutes, I think, or possibly longer. If I
Well,
scroll,
what was the timestamp you gave at the beginning?
okay,
33 something.
timestamp, it starts at 26 minutes. So it is literally 30 minutes of ball.
Yeah. Like half of the episode is this ball.
Yes, over half. Yeah, well, yeah, half. Like it's
Roughly
a
half.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big scene. Yeah. So yeah, that actually that's what I said. I said surely it was the second dance, as there is no way that that full conversation transpired between Marcus and Anderson, and then the conversation between Alice and Lady D, especially as Alice was thanking Lady D for keeping her company. Then the conversation. So, like, Alice had to have that conversation with Lady Danbury, probably while Violet and Marcus were having that conversation. Lady D then goes to leave. Marcus finishes his conversation with Violet and then follows her out. That whole conversation takes place, and then it goes back to Fran and Fran and Lord Samadani. So like that is a lot of scenes to transpire in just a short moment. Then the conversation between Lady D and Marcus, all before one dance has concluded. That would be like some sort of absolute feat if that was one dance. So it makes a lot of sense that you're saying one dance was actually 2 sets. That would
Yeah.
make a little bit, I mean, they would still have to be, and keep in mind that songs now are cut
And that's
down
why
for
I think
radio
this
length.
transition is here. Yeah, I think this transition is here because if Francesca takes the lemonade, if she makes the choice to continue staying at the
Um,
ball, she is inevitably going to be asked for a second dance, and then she is going to have to flat out turn him down. And she does not fully understand the intention of Lord John at this point. So she wants to give Lord John a chance. So her only action, her only possibility is
oh,
to leave the ball.
okay, that makes a little bit more sense because what I was going to say is that, okay, that makes sense. So keep in mind that today's songs are cut down for radio time. So,
Mm-hmm.
they're usually 3 to 4 minutes long, but I just looked it up, and Bach can be as long as 20 minutes, but the average classical song spans 7 to 10 minutes, some even exceeding 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes. So it would make sense then that if you were dancing 2 dances back to back, it would be a 15 to 20 minute time period,
Yeah,
which
they were
makes a
like
lot more
15
sense.
minutes long. They were like 15 minutes long. Yeah.
And yes, yes, I am that
And I want to
girl who
explain,
Googles it.
yeah. Well, and when I looked at it, like what the sets were, it says like a set is about 15 to
Yeah. Okay.
back when we talked etiquette before. But I want to point out too that this situation, although there are two men standing in front of her, this is a very real situation, but it plays into Colin's mindset at the end of season 1 at that dance, which we've spoke about at length, where he comes up to her and she says she's been on the dance floor, and he whips around looking for the person she might have been dancing with.
Hmm.
And then when he asks her to dance and she says she's all danced out for the night, and he turns, and that there's a look of not just confusion, but like, to me it's like terror, like, oh my gosh, I lost the girl. Like, cuz I think that's truly the woman he wanted. He didn't see it as possible. He tried to finagle a situation that would put him and Penelope within the same
Well,
family.
not just that, but dancing is the one time where he gets to have physical contact with her. And I think, like, if these balls are happening once a week, he goes a week between getting to feel the sunshine on his skin. It's a long time.
True. But that's what I'm saying. That's why when she says she's all danced out, like, that's a big deal. That is Regency etiquette.
You know
And
what?
she's
I feel
basically
that
told
so hard
him
though.
she has another suitor, and at worst, she's engaged already, because the only way you could deny a dance with a man is if you were engaged or you were ill and you were leaving the ball. Like, what Francesca does here is ultimately the not worst case scenario, where she just says she's got to go. She's feeling poorly,
Well, I
right?
mean,
So,
I 100% vibe with this so hard though, because when I was down in Queenstown for my cousin's wedding, and my cousin who was getting married is 25, so he's my second to youngest cousin, unless you're counting my bonus cousins, which are his brother-in-laws, well, stepbrothers, sorry, in which then he'd be the third or fourth youngest. But I tried to go out with them and all my younger cousins, and we went out on a Friday night, and I played Mama Duck to everyone. I literally counted up my ducks and I said, Mama Duck's walking this way, ducks behind me, and I'd count my ducks wherever they went. And when the ducks started not sticking in a straight line anymore, I headed all of their butts and I said, get into McDonald's, you're getting chicken nuggets, you're getting burgers, get your food into you. This Mama Duck ain't leaving no ducks behind. But by the end of the night, I was just exhausted. I am not cut out for a life of singing and dancing the night away and then having to get up at 6:30 in the morning with my son still, because my husband was up north for his cousin's wedding that day. And then we have Saturday and we've got boat cruises and walking and sightseeing. And then Sunday's the wedding and it's full on. And then, oh, 9 o'clock rocks around and they take away all the seating and they make the entire thing a dance floor. And it's another 4 hours of dancing and singing and pump, pump, pump and jumping. I am too old to be dancing the night away 2 nights in a weekend. What even is this? Too old. I was exhausted.
yeah, that's about the age. You're about the age where you're like, yeah, I can't just 2 nights in a row, because I hit that point and was like, because I used to go out 4 nights a week. I mean, it's
Mhm.
karaoke, but there was still dancing. Like, there would
Oh,
always
it
be
it was
pauses for
it was
dancing and line
literally
dancing and stuff like
it
that.
was such intense dancing that you can literally see in our photos from the start of the night to the end of the night where my entire makeup had melted off my face. People were
Girl,
like,
you also had a fever.
I had a massive fever. I didn't know at the time, but I was sick and I was coming down with something. And I thought it was just for the fact that I was drinking champagne and I don't generally drink it at all. And I was drinking champagne because I was thirsty. And so I thought it was that, but actually I had a massive throbbing headache as well. But no, everyone on the dance floor, like we were more sweat than we were human by the end of it because we danced our little butts
Yeah.
off.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. You reach an age where you could have gone out. Like, there's many a weekend that I went out 2 nights in a row, and then you just hit a brick wall and you're like, yeah, I need to separate this a little bit.
Hmm.
So we started doing like Thursday night karaoke and then Saturday. So we'd have Friday, and
Hmm.
Friday I'd work, but it was also rest because
Well,
it's a
it's
different kind
the
of
getting
activity.
up to a toddler after it. Like
Yeah.
it would be fine if you could just do it, go home and just couch potato the next day. But no, we still had like full on
Oh, yeah.
holidays, like excursions and outings and walking and oh my Lord, I can't drop it down low and then go out hiking up hills the next day.
No,
No.
I am vibing with you. Like, it's even worse. And you were sick. Like,
It was
Like you're
vicious.
adding so much onto it
It
that,
was such a
yeah,
combo.
it
And
really
my husband
was.
was away, so I was like doing Ezra on like taking care of Ezra on my own. It was
Right.
a lot. It was thank God for parents, grandparents. Thank the Lord. You guys are blessings. All right, let's get back to their dancing, not my dancing, because I'm done with my dancing career. Um, this is no longer the dancing queen. She is the let me sit on the sidelines like a wallflower seat, like queen.
Yeah.
So alas, the dance concludes, and whilst the other dancers separate and dissipate off of the dance floor fast, oh, that was something. Lord Samadani takes one step closer to Fran, clearly in her bubble, as if to signify his attraction to her. Then he walks away, but she is left looking rather unnerved, not because she's feeling like any sort of attraction or affection towards him in that moment, but because she very much realized that she didn't. And instead of it feeling like a rush of excitement, it was like a, oh, he's in my space, like get him out of it. Like, and I think she knew in that moment, I'm trying to force this because I can't have Lord John, but like, I can't do this. Like, this makes me so physically uncomfortable to have him that close to me. And what's it going to be like if I'm married? But I don't think she
No,
knows.
I think her reaction is very similar to the Penelope we see dancing with Debling, where she's actively looking like, Colin, please come in and save me right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
She's distracted, she's looking around. This doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
but it is her inevitability. She has that toxic inevitability kind of vibe going on, like I've got to do this, I've got
This
to
is what
do
I'm
this, I've
supposed to
got
do.
to do this,
Yeah.
this is what I'm supposed to do. John hasn't made any advances, this is what I'm supposed to do. And when he walks up, she's trying to play,
He
you
calls out her
know
name though, and she just stops in her tracks. Like, what?
uh-huh.
Like it
But she
really,
tries to pull a page out of Daphne's playbook, and
yes.
she's like, I'm so tired from dancing with Lord Samadani. Like, I do have other people that want me.
Well, she greets him back, but then the snark begins. And I said, I know I use this word a lot where she is concerned, but if petulance was a person, it would be Francesca Bridgerton.
For
She
real.
tries to throw her connection with Lord Samadani in his face by stating that she is so parched from dancing with Lord Samadani. Oh, there's so much heat between us that I am just so thirsty now. Gail, we know you're thirsty, but it's definitely for chocolate milk. That she does not feel much like talking to Lord John. Woo! I don't much feel like talking. And I love that he is so oblivious. Like, my precious little John, so oblivious that Francesca is trying to make him jealous, states, is that not, in fact, our preferred form of communication? Oh, sweet summer child.
Oh, see, I took that because I think John is smooth, just like how he took over that conversation when he came in the house and he didn't know anybody. I
Yeah.
think he's smooth, and I think he knew what she was doing. And he was like, Samadani, just say for me, dude. Like, you are prepared. Thank you, Samadani, for prepping my woman for me.
I
Like, I think
I
he was being like, yeah, that's not a bad thing.
I think
That's
he just
exactly how I want you.
I think it I don't. I think he's not that conniving or well thought out, to be honest.
I don't think
I
it's conniving. I think it's a smoothness that he has. Like
uh,
he works the room.
I think he thought he was flirting in this moment and he realized
Yes.
you can't flirt with a woman that's that mad because it's not going to go the way that you want it to. And
Oh
Francesca looks
no.
entirely ticked off, which is when he realized that he has made a grave error in judgment and rushes on to explain why he left her so abruptly the other day. I really like that he immediately deduced correctly that that was why that she was upset with him. Like, I love that
It shows how much he knows her already.
it shows how much he actually pays attention to her, that he thought he made his intentions clear with her. Oh, thank you so much, that helps me a lot, I'm gonna go work on that. Like, he didn't state it in
Mhm.
all of those words, but I felt like the intention was sort of there, and she, being autistic coded, doesn't know how to read between lines. She reads the lines and no more, kind of like I watched an anime that's about learning to play
It's
the
a
piano, and like,
two neurodivergent people, when they find each other, they just get each other.
yeah.
I just think, like, I mean, he really sees her and he really understands her and knows, and he knew he made a mistake in that moment just taking off. And that's his own self-awareness. But I also think, like, people with autism, like, are very self-aware, and we tend to really analyze ourselves a
Ruminate.
lot.
We ruminate a
Yeah,
lot.
we ruminate a lot. So, but when you end up with, as you know, as I'm thinking, and realizing, just how safe a space somebody really was, and how safe a space I really was for them, and like thinking how we interacted with each other, like we allowed each other's tism, we celebrated it, it became our thing, like
Yes.
how we connect.
Yeah.
So she's in a house of all these different personalities, and she doesn't feel like she fits in, and finding someone that just sees her and gets her and is kind of
Like,
is like the most heady thing.
it is. And because like you and I are both very ruminating people. We are both very big emotions, big feels. And to have a man that is just a safe space where the buzz just quiets down. It's no longer the buzz, buzz, buzz of a
Mm-hmm.
beehive. It's just like being wrapped in a little cocoon and melting like a butterfly, you know? It's a really, when you're such a, I went from being such an overthinker, and he absolutely calms my mind and mellows me out. And it's not to say that people change us to make us better, but it's that we find our mutual meeting place and just naturally fall into that rhythm of calmness when it's right.
It's vibe though. It's vibe. Like we all give off a vibe. There is something to, all of these different frequencies and the hertz levels of
Hmm.
music and how it affects you. And it's just a vibe. There are people that give off a vibe that you vibe also with. Your
Hmm.
body just knows and understands that person from a vibe level. And I've always explained it like I'm diagnosed CPTSD from my childhood and my previous marriage, but also as somebody who is already diagnosed ADHD and suspected ADHD. I've always described it as my insides feel like a tuning fork has been hit against an object, and
Hmm.
it is vibrating and it is shaking, and you can feel that, you can hear the tone of it, the sound of
Yeah.
it, and it totally engulfs me. But when he is in my space, and people may not understand this, and it doesn't matter to me, even when I knew he was in the city I was
Hmm.
in, we weren't even in the same room yet. My body,
Hmm.
like somebody took that tuning fork and just wrapped their hand around it, stop the vibration.
Gave it a
It was
hug.
calm and it was quiet and it was full. And I need more calm, quiet, and peaceful
And
in
and
my
that's
life.
and that's the thing where people really underestimate the love that Francesca has for John, and the feeling that he gives her is he is that quiet, because although she comes off as very introverted and very quiet, we can see that she actually has a lot of snark to her, a lot of bite to her. And I think people underestimate
Mm-hmm.
that even if she's quiet on the outside, it doesn't mean that her mind is quiet on the inside. Granted, my mind is no part of me is ever quiet, whether it be my mouth or my mind. So that's a bit
No.
different. But for Francesca, I think her mind is actually incredibly busy, and he quietens down that buzzing for her.
Yes, yes. See him seeing her and understanding her in a way she's not been understood before is really heady for her. And
Yes.
she does fall in love with him. It's not the same as what is going to occur with Michaela or for, in the books with Michael, but it still is a love. It is a love of mutual affection, mutual understanding. They just get each other in a way that nobody has gotten her yet. And it's really just it's that relationship that opens her up to the love of her life. But he's just a good egg. Like, Sienna and Anthony were toxic, right?
Yeah.
And Benedict has had a lot of growth relationships that like he kind of purposely is staying outside of the ton because he doesn't want anything serious. He wants to just have fun. So we've seen a lot of those. Lady Tilly was the closest he ever came, and he was actually dating somebody in the ton. Like
He was
he
formally
probably
courting
saw,
her.
yeah, he probably saw that he could make a formal proposal until Paul happened.
Hmm.
So the John for Francesca is that growth relationship. And for us, it's going to be really the first one that we're rooting for. Because as much as we liked Lady Tilly, too many of us know about Sophie. So we were
Yes.
never going to get invested.
No.
But knowing the history of John and Francesca from the books, so many of us got invested because we now get to see
I
that kind
think
of
I think
relationship
where I had
where
the
we did it
disconnect
in the books.
I think where I had the disconnect with Lady Tilly and why I knew that she was never it was the fact that Benedict didn't feel safe in her space to communicate about his love and desire of art. That he was
No.
just a toy boy and, and a Bridgerton and all those things, whereas his art and his love of the arts was such a humongous part of his personality. And I think they very much saved that for his relationship with
But
Sophie
I
because
think
that's something special
And
for
I
some of
think he
them.
was I think he was going through an arc as well, kind of like Colin, where he was trying to be a society boy and play
Yeah.
the society game
Yeah.
because he feels in his mind he failed at art.
Yeah.
He tried it and it didn't work out. So he was just going to be the society boy that he was born to be as a
Hmm.
Bridgerton. But he found like he wasn't ready to court to formally go a courting. And Lady Tilly was that safe person because she had openly stated she was emotionally unavailable. So he was playing the society game without actually investing
Yes.
in society. But
Or
he was doing kind of the same thing Colin was, where Colin was like, I was trying to be the guy everybody wants me to be. That's what Benedict was trying this season because art didn't work out.
let's talk about Francesca going against the grain of what everyone wants for her, because this is when Lord John hands Francesca his grand gesture, and as she unrolls the parchment, he says, "I am not a man of many words, and the words I do have, I'm afraid they are not very good, but I do believe in the power of a gesture. This man is beyond sweet, but I feel so sad for him that he feels, like Simon, that he cannot convey himself without ridicule or judgment, when actually the words that he does speak are so often thoughtful, sweet, genuine, and really like the way that he analyzed the Bridgerton family and how each part of Francesca that he loved came from a different facet of a different relationship she had with each of them was the most insightful, genuine speech that I think I've heard in all of Bridgerton.
And it's very similar to Penelope being introverts. Look at how much he was able to be more comfortable with the family as he got to know them. Because
Yes.
look at how awkward he was with Anthony trying to tell the story about the
I
boots.
know it's
And
because
like,
Anthony's mean.
and he's at this point, that speech he gave her, like, I'm not a man of many words, but I do understand the power of a gesture, is literally the most words he has said in one sentence to her,
Yes.
really. Even with their interaction on the street, it was very clipped and short.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is and has been in a relationship, well, I'm not in a relationship, I just made it sound like I was, but not
Not
boundary
currently.
instated. But having been in a relationship with someone and coming to understand them more in this stage of life, he is very much a man of,
Hmm.
and but he it's like what words I get is like the tip of the iceberg, and underneath the ocean is like this huge amount of ice.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
like
gestures.
that picture of an iceberg when you
Yeah.
see that's above what's
Yeah.
above the water and what's below the water. That's very much John here too. Like there's so much being thought, there's so much being thought out, there's so much that he's saying in his own brain
Well,
that never comes out of his mouth.
and you can see the immediate moment of recognition that lights up on Francesca's features as she realized what the parchment contains and also the symbolism of what it means. I don't
Yeah.
have to marry Lord Samudani. This is a gesture of a suitor. He cares for me too.
He took
He took the
my
time to
suggestion.
he took the time to recognize me and my loves, not please my family, not do what he's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to in the ton. He saw me and
Yep.
he is showing that he
And
appreciates.
and it's the ultimate
Oh,
gesture that a
Patty,
man can do for, huh.
my headphones have just given out, so I can no longer
Oh.
hear you. So I know that we are literally in the midst of a episode, but I think we are going to have to wrap it up here, and I'm going to try get through the rest of this episode going off of your mouth.
Well,
Okay,
there's
so
that.
I have two more points that I wanted to get through today before we wrap it up with we will continue on next week's episode when the Queen's reaction to this moment. So we'll get into Lord Samadani. Patty, I'll try to look when you are. We have chat. Thank you. I will try to look when you are speaking. So I will start it and then you. So this is when Lord Samadani returns with the lemonade. Francesca rejects Lord Samadani's lemonade, symbolism that is not lost on the Queen for sure, then calls out to her mama that she would like to return home early. Violet, flustered, sort of looks to Lord Samadani, who clearly realizes that he is being rejected in this moment and looks a little bit forlorn about it.
Yes. And if you look in the chat, I wanted to say something, so I'm going to say that first. Look in the chat. And sorry for the dogs. I obviously have somebody in my front yard, but and what I was saying about, or was going to say about Lord John before you lost your headset, is that there was a lot in her facial expression that, you know, she wasn't going to have to marry Samadani, but also that she was reading him correctly because she doesn't have that connection with her family. Sometimes she thinks she might get it wrong, and she thought maybe she had experienced interest there, but maybe she was wrong. So it's very important that she was right. And like, he did the most heady thing that a person, a man could do for a woman. She made a suggestion. He took an idea that she had given, and he physically created it. He physically manifested it for her. And I can tell you from my own experience that that's a huge thing. So that's the grandest of grandest gestures, that he took an idea of hers and ran with it. And I'm typing to Tosh now what I'm saying so that she can comment if she wants. And then coming into Samadani's disappointment, I do think Samadani really cares for her and really expects to, he thinks this proposal is going to happen. He thinks she's going to say yes. So he's disappointed. But I honestly think like the big part of this whole interaction is that after talking to John, it's clear who she chose in that moment, because she wants to leave and she wants to bolt. And so it's not just Samadani didn't get the girl, it's that dude who was in the drawing room when he showed up on a courting day that he knew he was expected because they made his favorite dessert, that's the guy who won.
This is going to be really, really funny to listen back to in post-production, because you guys can hear everything that Patty is saying, but I cannot, as my headphones have literally died and I have no idea where the charger is. So we are literally, Patty can hear me obviously, but I can't hear her. So I'm going off of watching her on the camera to see when she's finished speaking. So I have no idea at this point if I'm going to be repeating anything that Patty has said. So apologies that this is a little bit hodgepodge. But Fran bids her suitors goodbye, first turning to Lord Samadani as he is the highest in rank amongst them, and gives a formal goodbye because she is very much a rules debutante. She very much follows the rules of polite society.
She follows
before
polite
turning
society,
to Lord John and giving him the same goodbye, except she sounds almost giddy, saying it with a playful smile.
Yeah, and while you're reading what I said,
yes, yeah, he definitely has realized that the suitor in the drawing room he has lost to him. So in next week's episode, we will go on from here, where we talk about the Queen's reaction to it, and we have a lot of Featherington moments in next week's episode, where we will be wrapping up part 1 of season 3. That's going to be kind of a bittersweet moment, because episodes 1 to 4 are my favorite.
And by the way, we
far.
both said bittersweet.
But I also think it's partly because
headset.
I think it's also partly because
connection.
I haven't actually watched episodes 5 to 8 anywhere near as much as I have episodes 1 to 4. So I think part of my love comes from bittersweet, also funny. Part of my love for it comes from just the sheer amount that I've watched it and how nostalgic it is for me now. So I'm hoping to kind of fall in love with episodes 5 to 8 as I watch it. But in the meantime, we are going to have to do deep dives on in research mode for seasons 1 and 2 in preparation for our Penelope analysis episode that you guys all voted for.
Yes, I'm excited.
But for today, gentle listeners, we will leave it there and continue on next week's episode. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you're enjoying our podcast, please remember to click follow on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening. We are now on YouTube, so please head over there for exclusive content, which this week we have dropped, or maybe just before this week, I'm not entirely sure when it drops, but we will have just dropped our pollen moments, seeing as this is the week of pollination.
Yep, this is pollen week, and thank you for listening to the musings
Yours truly
of two mad women.
Is it my turn? Yours truly, Tash the Kiwi.
And Lady Patty.
Okay, I definitely saw that. And Lady Patty. This is what apparently it's like to be deaf, because I'm now having to lip read to figure out what it is that you're saying. Hopefully, hopefully our
I was trying
listeners
to type
enjoy
and talk.
Oh no, where's my? Oh, I was like because the chat bar popped up where our pause and stop recording button happens. I panicked for a second that we weren't recording this whole time. I was like, oh, no. But hopefully our listeners appreciate the fact that we didn't just cut the episode short, and we survived through the hardship. But I'm going to end it there, and I will just call you on my phone.
Okay.